share this post, and let's let some folks get on today on Sports Shorts. I'm Ronnie Rance with Tommy Christ and TK, as he does every Monday. Joins us from Court Street Cafe in Port Allen, downtown Port Allen. TK, tell them about Court Street real quick before we get started.
Court Street Cafe, 805 Court Street, 2 minutes the other side of the bridge. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, 6 days a week. Lunch specials, dinner specials. They post all that on Facebook and Instagram. Jason and the staff do a great job here at Court Street Cafe. If you haven't been here, get over the bridge. 2 minutes other side of the bridge, and you are set to go. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Lots of great specials. They really do a great job here at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen.
So today on Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBears, we're going to talk about the big news of the day. The Honey Badger looking like he's coming home officially to New Orleans. NFL.com reported he's going to sign today. Also talk a little LSU baseball as the Tigers with a giant series win at home against a quality opponent, a ranked team, the Georgia Bulldogs. They win 2 out of 3, and they were on the verge. They were this close to losing 2 out of 3. Boom, Kate Doty, homer. They win 2 out of 3. What a difference that home run makes. Tommy and I will get into it. The draft is officially in the can. LSU has the second most draft picks of any LSU Tiger team in history, which is incredible considering a 500 a year and a losing record in back-to-back seasons. Also, the Saints wrap up their free agency picks. No real news of note. We do have one Nichols Colonel we'll tell you about. That's going to be trying to make that squad. How about the University of Texas, 0 draft picks? That's crazy. We'll get Tommy's take on that. Drew Brees makes an appearance at an LSU baseball game yesterday, throws out the first pitch and gives a little motivational talk to the team. We'll kind of give a little post-game reaction to Garth Brooks in Tiger Stadium. I was there, part of the 102,000. I was there for the concert. I was there for the traffic after. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Let's bring in Tommy over at Court Street Cafe. First topic of the day, Tommy, the breaking news of the day. Tyrann Mathieu, we were hoping it was going to happen. It looks like it's a done deal. The Honey Badger's going to be a Saint.
Well, you know, when he came to Baton Rouge about a month or so ago and he threw out a first pitch at a Tiger baseball game and he met with Brian Kelly and Brian Kelly had him speak to the team. He said, you never know. He was asked about New Orleans, and he said he'd love to come home, but we all know the business side of the NFL. Here's my thought on it. Number one, the Chiefs have said, they have no plans to have him return. All the big national pundits are reporting that in the coming days, if not today, he'll sign. And here's my take on the whole thing. Obviously, when he was at LSU, they made some bad decisions and things didn't end like they maybe wanted to. But for lack of a better word, he grew up. He became a professional. He's one of the best players in the league. He's done a lot of things for charity and youth organizations. He's a New Orleans kid, went to St. Augustine High School. And I remember when he played at St. Aug, David Johnson was the head coach. And I was down there and met with David, and he said, I got a freshman here that'll play in the NFL for a long time. I go, yeah, who's that? Well, Tyrann happened to walk into his office, and I'm like, that little kid's going to play for a long time? Exactly. David Johnson was correct, okay? And he is one of the best football players. Great stuff with the Chiefs, the Cardinals before that. And if the Saints can get him, which all indications are that they will, you realize how much that will electrify the fan base that's already excited about the draft. You got a new coach with Dennis Allen, got a lot of continuation with the previous Sean Payton staff. But, man, I think New Orleans is flying high because of the Pelicans, and now all of a sudden, if they get Mathieu, the injection of excitement and electricity will really be pretty cool.
Yeah, no question about it. It's going to be something to watch. I think this is part of exactly what they need. With Malcolm Jenkins leaving, you just kind of fill in with another veteran leader, and that's what he's become. He's a leader of whatever team he's going to be on. So, I think the Tyrann Mathieu pick fits perfectly to what the Saints are trying to accomplish. They're still in the win now. They've got a young safeties for him to mentor and coach up as well. And the fans are going to be super, super pumped to have him back. It may give him some juice to have a few more years in the tank, more than we even think. But Go
You
ahead.
make a good point, Ronnie. It's also a position of need. It's not just the warm and fuzzy New Orleans
Right.
St. Aug LSU thing. They need help at the safety position. So it's like a double-edged sword in the correct direction because they need him, and this will be. And look, you don't think he's going to want to do everything he can to see the Saints be successful, from his position. And as you said, as a leader, I mean, the guy has grown up a lot in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So it would be great if it happens. New Orleans will be another reason to have a party in New Orleans if they sign Tyrann Mathieu.
I'll say this: when it comes to Tyrann Mathieu, what he's been able to do with his life in the last 10 years and how he's transformed his image is absolutely mind-boggling and incredible. There was a tweet this morning by Jarvis Landry, his old teammate at LSU, who held up a fist and said, "That a boy," the people like Jarvis that are, and Leonard Fournette and all these guys, are pumped. And whether you're with the Saints or another team, these guys all grew up in South Louisiana. They grew up as Saints fans. Outside of their own teams they play for, they probably watch and wonder and care about what's going on with the Saints more than anybody. So they get it. They know how special it is to go home and play for that childhood team and the team that your family and friends and everybody pull for. It's just like being an LSU Tiger again, quite honestly. And for most of those guys, those were the greatest times of their lives. So that's why they're all pumped for him. And I know I'm fired up. And even if he's not the best he's ever been at this stage in his career, he's still going to help them out quite a bit. And we've seen a number of players later on come to New Orleans, had that juice, get back in there. Yeah, it's a great point. How many Mathieu jerseys are going to be bought this week? No question. He will be, now that Drew is kind of gone, and you think about, okay, Kamara is the number one jersey you see outside of Drew. Michael Thomas is still a little bit in the doghouse. He can maybe get back in there. But no, you're right. Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, those are the ones those are the jerseys you're going to see. All right, let's move on to the next topic. LSU baseball wins 2 out of 3 over the weekend. And number 16 RPI just in the host regional right now at the moment. Let me say this about the RPI, Craig. I don't know. The RPI is just one factor that goes into, what are they going to use? Talking about the selection committee, what are they going to use to decide who's in and who's out? I don't know where the RPI fits in because there's been some years where they use the RPI or how they always have the wrap up, Tommy, where they talk to the head of the committee and he'll give them their take on what transpired in the meeting room. And sometimes they'll be like, well, their RPI was so high. And then other times they'll say, well, why didn't they get in? Or why are they so low? Because and then they'll always say, well, the RPI is just one piece. So they pick and choose what's important. The good news is yes, we know they play in the best conference or the second best conference this year, technically, maybe. We know that the RPI is going to be high because of that. We know that they have the reputation and the name. But I think it comes down to this. They win 18 games, they're hosting a regional. That's the number to watch. So they've got, 9 left. If they go 6-3 in their last 9, they're hosting a regional. And that's very doable for them to go 6-3 in their last 9. If they go 17 wins, then you got to go do some stuff at Omaha and Hoover, and you got to look around and see what everybody else is doing around the country because they're going to want some diversity if possible. But trust me, the NC, if they're on that bubble, if they're on that borderline, they're giving it to the LSU Tigers because they want that stadium full. They want that atmosphere. They want that TV, in Baton Rouge, no question about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. The RPI is kind of like a convenient thing. When it fits the narrative, good. When it doesn't, oh well. But hey, we're into the month of May, obviously, and LSU's got some things in front of them that they can accomplish. Taking 2 out of 3 from Georgia, who was number 5 in the RPI coming into the weekend, that might have helped LSU climb up a little bit. But hey, if you make it happen on the field and they win 18 games, you're not going to have to worry about the RPI. And, of course, do well in Hoover.
Craig saying huge win yesterday and series win for LSU baseball. Hope the excitement keeps them motivated the rest of the season. I think they're going to be motivated. Look, yesterday came down to this series was strange. Hilliard continued third outing in a row, just outstanding. So they win game one on Friday. On Saturday, you expect them to lose, but you expect them to lose 3-1, 3-2, something like that when they had their All-American superstar pitcher going. But LSU battled them fantastic. They got 4 runs off of them in 5 innings. They only struck out one time. I mean, it was a tie ball game going to the 6th when it was a battle of the bullpens. Well, Georgia clearly won that battle. LSU's bullpen was awful on Saturday. 9 home runs hit between the two teams. So that game was strange, but you always expected to lose that game anyway. And then you went into Sunday, and they were, 1 inning away, trailing by a run going into the 9th. When Georgia brought back its lefty reliever who threw 38 pitches on Saturday. I remember looking at the box score after the game and thinking, I wonder if he's burned for tomorrow. And inevitably, he wasn't burned. He just wasn't as good. His first fastball was 94, which is plenty good enough. But normally that's the low end of his fastball. And then clearly, he had the leadoff walk, and then he ended up had the single that he gave up to the switch hitter, Berry. He gave up a single to Berry, who, by the way, had homered to dead center, first home run of the year, right-handed on Saturday. Berry had a single off the same pitcher, and then Doty, of course, had the big home run. So bringing him on back-to-back days after he threw 38 pitches clearly hampered Georgia. He wasn't the same guy. And LSU went from the outhouse to the White House, because we're talking a lot different about LSU today, Tommy. If they lose 2 out of 3 and they're only sitting on 11 wins versus 12, and they won the series, and now they've got Alabama on the road, Ole Miss at home, and then they finish at Vandy. And Vandy's good, but they're not like unbeatable like they've been in the past.
Well, what I thought when I was watching all the games, I thought the left on base might hurt LSU. They had the bases loaded bottom of the 8th on Saturday. Couldn't get that run in when they were down by 1, and then Georgia hit some home runs at the top of the 9th. Then 7th inning yesterday, bases loaded, couldn't get that run in. I'm thinking, oh, no, because I think they had 13 left on base yesterday. So, I mean, I'm thinking, because you know how it goes. Sometimes you leave too many out there, and when you look back and you lose that 1 run or that 2-run game. But, Barry gets the single, you get the home run, and, hey, that's what you needed. And like you said, it's a thin line. It proves that every game is so important that they took the series instead of losing the series, and what that puts in front of them.
Byron Painter saying Brees needs to be hired on for the rest of the season. A really cool thing Sunday was Drew Brees was there with his boys, and Drew Brees threw out the first pitch, got a chance to interact with the team. If you go on social media, you'll find a little quick motivational talk he gave the team on the sidelines after he threw out the first pitch. And by the way, it was a ball. It was high and inside, but still good velocity on it by Drew from the rubber with a little leg kick. And that was a really cool thing. Obviously, he was in town for the Garth Brooks concert and stuff like that with the family on Saturday and everything. And of course, he works with walk-ons, and he's a part owner of the corporate side. So, Drew, I don't know, the momentum, the motivation that Drew gave him, obviously, it factored in there somewhat. And then in the 9th inning, they exploded. Wasn't a giant offensive day by any means, but still, they got it done when it counts. And I don't know if they can afford Drew Byron for the rest of the summer, though. That's the only thing.
Ryan, one thing I noticed when Drew Brees was giving that speech, we got reminded he's not the tallest guy in the world, because many of the LSU players, the Hall of Famer, and it was really cool, I think, for the LSU baseball team to be able to hear it, even though it was less than a minute. That had to be cool.
Dylan Cruz was a beast over the weekend. Yesterday, hit 2 big home runs. He's now got 13 homers on the year. LSU now with 4 guys with 10 or more homers after Doty picked up his 10th yesterday. Pretty incredible stuff. LSU baseball statistically. But Cruz had one of the longest homers, about 900 yards of homers, as Chance says. But he had one of the longest home runs I've ever seen in the box from a right-handed hitter. We talk so much about all these other players. Let's not sleep on the fact that Dylan Cruz, arguably the best player on the team, really 2 years in a row. You can make a case that Dugas might have been the MVP last year offensively. You can make a case that Trey Morgan was a freshman type All-American candidate. You can make a case for Barry this year and what he's doing offensively. But when you package the whole thing, Tommy, the defense, the arm, the glove, the legs, the bat, the power, the average, he probably is your best player. I mean, Barry has his deficiencies on defense. Doty to a certain degree, but when it comes to Cruz, he can literally play any of the outfield positions and play it at a high level, not just play it. He can play it at a high level. So you throw in that defense along with the offense, I think he's the best player, and I think that may be proven out over the years in the major leagues when time goes on.
Well, in my opinion, he's the best player because what doesn't get talked about, he's got an excellent arm from the outfield. He can run down balls. He's a five-tool player. And in my opinion, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Barry or Morgan or Doty, but if you ask me to name the best player, I'm saying Dylan Cruz.
Barry right now, by the way, hitting 359 on the year. Dylan Cruz's batting average is 328. K. Doty right there at 327. Trey Morgan batting 313. Those are your superstars, and those are the only four players in the regulars. Although Josh Pearson barely qualifies, because of the at bats coming on late. But Josh Pearson hit 300, right at 300. But the main guys that have been there all year, those are the four that are batting 313 or higher. Braden Jobert down to 275, although he does have a bunch of home runs and RBIs. And then after that, Josh Pearson, by the way, coming on with some good things. He had a big home run on Saturday, had a double on Saturday. But after that, the averages are falling. Although Tyler McMahon is starting to come around a little bit. The transfer from Sanford hit 250. That may not seem like a high number, but based on what he did at the beginning of the year, it is. And he also has 4 home runs on the year to go along with some, I want to say, let's see, he's got 3 triples, which is weird. He's got more triples than doubles. He's got 2 doubles and 3 triples, which Kyle McManus couldn't beat Tommy in a foot race. But anyway, so they've been a little bit more timely with their hitting, and that definitely showed up on Friday and on Sunday. All right, so the Tigers take on Nichols on Tuesday at home. Nichols, the Colonels, like everybody in the Southland, having a good year. Put them in a bag, shake it up. Nichols with under new head coach. Seth Thibodeau's been gone. He's now the pitching coach for the Raging Cajuns. But Nichols right there with a chance to win the league this year. They'll come to the box on Tuesday.
Well, Mike Silva, came in from Louisiana Tech, and he's done a good job with this Nichols program. They're 11-7 in conference play. Now, like you said, the Southland's kind of like all the same teams, basically. But he's done a good job, after the Nichols team struggled the last couple of years. So you got to give him some credit. I mean, I would think LSU should win the game on tomorrow night in the box. But, yeah, you still got to line up and play. And this is a better Nichols team than the Nichols team from last year.
By the way, Nichols took 2 out of 3 over the weekend from New Orleans, UNO. Nichols and McNeese and Houston Baptist, who had a big weekend, by the way, they moved up. Those 3 teams all have 11-7 records in the Southland Conference. UNO and Northwestern State and Southeastern are all 9-9. And then A&M, Corpus Christi, and UIW are 6-12. So those are the 8 teams this year. We know Lamar is going to join the conference, and UIW is leaving the conference. But look at that right there. Nichols, a year, under first-year coach, right there in first place in the Southland Conference. That would be quite a story if they end up winning the conference. As much as I'm happy for them, there's a part of me that feels for, Seth Thibodeau, good guy, friend, great coach, a lot of good things on and off the field. But in his first year going, Southeast, shows you what he left. But also, first year going, there's some juice there, and they're winning. And sometimes Tommy's program needs just a change of leadership. It's not things get stale, the message gets stale, or how it's delivered. It's not necessarily. It's just sometimes time, And And clearly, if you look at what Nichols has done baseball-wise, their facilities have improved tremendously over the last 10-plus years. They do things the right way. It's a great, solid program in the Southland Conference, as are really all of them in Louisiana. They're all under good footing when it comes to UNO and McNeese and Southeastern and Northwestern. They're all good, solid programs that if I was a father and I had a son playing college baseball, I'd be fine with them going to any of them. They're good coaches. There's good facilities, good programs. Obviously, Northwestern State lagging on the facilities more than the other schools, but Nichols just needed a little change of voice probably, and that's showing up this year. All right, so the Tigers in baseball, they'll be on the road next week against Bama. That'll be a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday series. We'll talk plenty more about that as the week unfolds. So let's get to the draft, Tommy. What's your takeaway from the New Orleans Saints draft now that it's all in the books?
Well, like I think Chance said the other day, they got 2 starters in the first round. Or, on paper right now, we think those guys will both start, okay? And unless something crazy happens, they will. They addressed some positions in need, moved up. I mean, typical Saints draft. And the Saints draft history is pretty good under Mickey Loomis. And, of course, Peyton's gone, and now you got Dennis Allen. But he was there for so long, so he was in that war room. He was in those meetings when they discussed players, So I think the Saints did very good. Now, all 32 teams got the guy they wanted. They think it's going to be the difference and all this, that, and the other. But we know more about the Saints than we know about other teams. And I think the Saints did very good on paper in the draft. Time will tell as we go forward. But if you can get some offense, if Winston comes back healthy, and you put Olav on the other side of Michael Thomas, could be some really good stuff. Big tackle. We'll see if he's expected to come in and start at left tackle. The kid from Northern Iowa, Trevor Fanning. So, hey, I think the Saints did very well. But like I said, everybody thinks they did well. Now, as you said, Texas Longhorns, nobody drafted. How about this? Southern University had more players drafted than the Texas Longhorns. And Auburn only had 1 player drafted. It speaks to the depth and the talent at those schools, Texas and Auburn. Well, Ronnie, I don't think Texas is real happy about coming to the SEC. They're going to be the Vanderbilt. They're going to be like Vanderbilt in the SEC in football. I'm not talking about other sports. They got their work cut out for them. Because somebody had a tweet last night. Mac Brown in his last year at Texas had no players drafted. Mac Brown gave up over 30 points in the second half to Oklahoma. Mac Brown lost to Kansas. Steve Sarkisian did all 3 of them things in 1 year.
That's crazy. That's insane. Look, it also goes to show you, as someone pointed out here, that 17 draft picks by the New Orleans Saints. 17 draft picks for the LSU Tigers over the last 2 years. 10 in 2020. 7 in 2020 and 10 in 2021. 17, and yet they have a below 500 record when you combine the last 2 years. That just goes to show you how bad things got as a team, with coach and staff. We know all the excuses and all the distractions, but still, that much talent, you just can't have a below 500 record, and that's exactly what they did. The New Orleans Saints, looking at their draft, for me, Tommy, I like the players they took, especially in the first round, right? Olave and Penning, players we expected. But the only question is, did they give up too much to move up to get Olave? And the Saints have proven that if they've got a guy in mind or a need in mind, they're not worried about the ramifications down the road. They're going to take the player they want that they think can do. And they showed you that with Davenport in the past, and they did it with Olave. Gave up 3rd and 4th round picks to move up to guarantee they got him and not just take any wide receiver. He was the one they wanted. So Olave in there. I think, looking at one of the draft boards, they gave an A to the Saints for that. Penning was a B rating because there's a little bit of question mark with him. There's a lot of future with him. Alontae Taylor is the pick in the second round that the Saints are going to have got a little bit of criticism for, that they may have reached on him, taking him too soon. The ranking by him by Saints Wire is a C, being that he was taken in the 80-something pick or maybe 90th pick, whatever, 80-something pick, whereas he was projected to be like 110 to 120 on the boards. So Hey, did they reach on him? Time will tell. Supposedly missed a lot of tackles the last couple of years in college. They didn't have another pick to round 5 because they gave up some. They took a linebacker to Marco Jackson on Appalachian State. That one's expected to be a good one. The takeaway on him, I'll give you this little synopsis. A lot to like about this pick. Jackson is one of the most experienced special teams players in the draft. Over 630 snaps in the kicking game behind him, and he's a formidable straight line athlete who can push teams between the tackles. But he had to play many reps in the pass coverage as we've seen in the NFL. He has not played as many reps in the pass coverage as he will in the NFL. So that'll be something to watch. So looking at him as a special teams guy, and then defensive tackle Jordan Jackson out of Air Force, who was a little bit more of for them an edge rusher. He'll play inside, the Saints are saying. So they gave that one a B pick for the value and where they got him in the 6th round. So, B or higher in every pick, according to one of the sites, except for Alontae Taylor. There's a C because it's a little bit of a, hey, maybe they reached on him a little bit more than they should have, Tommy. But overall, I'm, down the road, if those guys play special teams and make the team, great. But if the top 2 picks in the draft, I think are in there day one, no doubt. And you just fingers crossed that it ends up working out for the Saints. LSU, any big surprises? Anything that stands out from LSU players that went in the draft, Tommy?
Not really. Kind of what you talked about, how many of them getting picked. And, I spoke to a current assistant coach at LSU, and they're still trying to fix the locker room because that was just bad. It's just proof that there was so much talent there, like there was in 2019, but obviously they won a national championship, and then it went the other way. No big surprises in the LSU thing. Good news for Cade York. He's going to get an opportunity that, a lot of kickers don't get picked, so that was good news for York. You got some guys that got free agents. They're going to get a chance to go to a camp and see what happens. So, all in all, I think LSU should be satisfied, and it'll help recruiting when they can say, hey, look, we had a bad season, but we still had guys that got picked. The NFL knows who we are. They know there's talent at LSU, and if you're talking to a recruit, hey, come be a part of that talent. I think the surprise, and I mentioned this last night on Hold the Rope Radio, was Damone Clark going so late. We know how much Derry Beckwith talked about Clark. Derry's a national championship linebacker. Talked about the motor he had and how he played linebacker and led that team. I was a little surprised he lasted as long as he did, especially based on Derry Beckwith's observations and comments about Clark. But, hey, Ronnie, it doesn't matter who takes you or when they take you. If you get into a camp, now it's you start writing a new chapter in the book.
The Cleveland Browns took Cade York in the 4th round. He was the first LSU kicker ever drafted, and the highest drafted kicker, second highest drafted kicker, and or the highest drafted kicker since 2016. I'll tell you this: of all the players that were drafted, and obviously Stingley going 3rd overall. To the Texans, you would think would have the longest career and the most successful career. I think it's going to be Cade York, hands down. This dude is a machine. You're right. No question. That's a recruiting pitch you could talk about. Of all the guys, Cade York's a guy, if he stays healthy, Tommy, on paper, kickers are, if you're good and consistent, he might kick 15 years in the NFL. I mean, he has got a cannon for a leg. He's super consistent. His technique is flawless. He's got a great work ethic. This was a 5-star, best kicker in high school coming out of high school. He's the best kicker in college coming out of college. It'll be fun to watch.
Well, here's the other thing. I read this when reading something about him being drafted. He proved that he could kick outdoors, and a lot of games in the NFL are indoors. And, that field goal he kicked against Florida in the fog, he couldn't even see the uprights. So he just, it's kind of like putting with your eyes closed. He just knew what to do and where to hit it. This could be a thing where he's a kicker for the Browns for a long, long time.
It's also a situation where McMahon, the former special teams coach, who was a special teams coach in the NFL for a long time, talking about Greg McMahon, that that it paid dividends having that guy, his reputation, his connections. They can call him up, say, hey, tell me about this guy. What kind of kid is he? Blah, blah, blah. And Greg McMahon just raves about Cade York. So that's a good story there. We talked about Drew Brees a little bit earlier with the motivation. I want to recap for you. Tommy, you didn't go to Garth, did you?
No, I did not.
So the Garth Brooks concert, for 102,000 people out there, and some of you probably watching us here went to Garth Brooks, and it did not disappoint. I've heard from many, many people who said that this was the greatest concert they've ever been to. And for me, it definitely was in the conversation. Second greatest concert, Tommy, I've ever been to, next to Celine Dion's New Day live at Caesar's Palace. I've said that many times. But it was an unbelievable atmosphere. And finally, for the first time since 1988, another event in Tiger Stadium registered on the Richter scale, which was really neat. We talked about the earthquake game with Eddie Fuller catching the pass from Tommy Hodson to beat Auburn, but that happened the other night. Now, I haven't heard the news on what time it happened for them to sync up which song it was.
Calling Baton Rouge.
Oh, it was? They're saying it did happen during Calling Baton Rouge? Okay. So, because, honestly, being in the stadium, there were other moments where it was just as loud as Calling Baton Rouge. Arguably, when he first came on stage, it was just as loud. But that's pretty cool that they're, and whether it was or wasn't, they're going to use it. That it happened during Calling Baton Rouge. But and look, I've been to Garth Brooks before, and he's an actor, and he is going to play to the crowd, and he's going to pat his chart and do all those things. I'd like to believe that he meant everything he said and everything he did on that stage, but I can guarantee you there's no concert that dude will ever play where there will be a better atmosphere than what there was in Tiger Stadium. There may be something similar. I'm sure if you play in Knoxville in front of 10,000 up in Chattanooga, up in Knoxville, Tennessee, that it'll be just as awesome with a big stadium and a giant crowd, and they love you too. But there won't be one better. That crowd was electric throughout. They brought the energy throughout, and wow, it was an unbelievable show that everybody was talking about. Now the traffic afterwards, just as amazing as it took me 2 hours to get from Alex Box Stadium. Once I got to my car to my house in Denham Springs, it took me 2 hours to get from Alex Box. But still, I knew it. I anticipated it. It was still way worth it. An amazing night in Baton Rouge, and I'm sure the LSU Athletics will use that night, that video, that everything for whatever sport to help recruit moving forward.
Well, they like to play that song in Tiger Stadium, so now they can do the song and the video of him playing it in Tiger Stadium. But my daughter was among the crowd. She said it was awesome. She loved it, and I know lots of people that did go. And, I always put the old question to people like, okay, would you go again? And everybody I talked to said, yeah, I would go see that again. A lot of people paid a lot of money for tickets and whatnot. And, I saw all the posts and the pictures. And, it was Tiger Stadium was packed. It was a special night. And I agree with you. The whole Calling Baton Rouge song and the fact that that's been around and you throw that in there for the 100,000 people. It's not like it was at the Assembly Center with 12,000 people. It's just Garth Brooks will never play another concert with that kind of excitement, and people are going to talk about it for a long time. And here's the other side: it's going to be hard to top that. Who can come in next year or the year after and put 102,000 people? I don't know that it could happen again.
Chance asking, how did LSU get Brees to come into the baseball game? Drew Brees, of course, part owner of the corporate side on walk-ons, and he brought the family to Garth Brooks. He and Brandon Landry, right? Good friends and business partners. They brought the family to Garth Brooks. They stayed the night, and they went to the baseball game on Sunday. That's how they made it happen. Was the walk-ons connection, and of course, Safford's the nephew of Brandon Landry, Will Safford, LSU baseball player, and connections there galore. But anyway, pretty awesome event. So. Tommy's over at Court Street Cafe. He'll be back over at Tremonti's on Wednesday. Please like and share this video. Help us out. Don't forget Baton Rouge Rougarou playing the Texas Collegiate League. Get your tickets now. Wood Bat League this summer. Our first game is June the 7th. Get your season tickets at brrougarou.com. TK, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, man, it was a great weekend. Should be another fun week in the sports world and everything. We ended the month of May. Time flies when you're having fun.
Honey Badger coming home. That's the news of the day. And
hopefully we're talking about that Wednesday morning on Sports Shorts Daily.
All right, we'll see you on Wednesday, everybody. Have a good one.